First, I invite Mr. Devabhushan Bora onto the dais. Devabhushan Bora is a literary critic and associate professor of English at Birangana Sati Sadini Rajik Vishwavidyalaya, Assam. He won the Munin Borkotoki Literary Award for his essay collection Nirbasan and represented Assamese literature at national events like the Festival of Letters 2019. He received the Sahitya Academy Travel Grant 2016. His interests include African writing in English, post-colonial studies, literary theory, gender and Assamese literature. Next, I invite Mr. Ravi Singh onto the dais. Ravi Singh is a publisher and co-founder of Speaking Tiger Books, one of India's most distinctive independent publishing companies over a career spanning 3 decades, including tenure as publisher and chief editor at Penguin Books India and as co-publisher at Aleph Book Company. He has collaborated closely with many of the finest authors writing from and about South Asia. Now I invite Mr. Sharif Bakr onto the dais. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Sharif Bakr has played key roles in both Egyptian and international publishing sectors. He is General Manager of Al Arabi Publishing and Distributing. He launched the #Different Books series, which has published over 650 titles from 76 countries. He served as General Secretary of the Egyptian Publisher Association and has been elected 4 times to the International Publishers Association's Freedom to Publish Committee. In Egypt, he is a member of several national cultural committees and contributed to formulating Egypt's Cultural Vision 2040. He also leads Cairo Calling and coordinates Arab Voices while speaking regularly at international book fairs. Now I invite Mr. Abdullah Khan to join the panel on the dais. Abdullah Khan is a Mumbai-based novelist, screenwriter, literary critic and banker. He has written 2 novels, Patna Blues and A Man from Motihari. His debut, Patna Blues, has been translated into 10 languages. He regularly writes on literary and cultural topics for Indian and international publications like The Hindu, Outlook, Mint, Scroll, Hindustan Times, The Daily Star, Brooklyn Rail and Wasafiri. He is also active in film and OTT, recently co-writing season 3 of Ye Meri Family. Without further ado, I now hand over the session to our moderator.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session on writing. I am here joined by a panel of esteemed publishers and authors. Basically, we'll discuss on how market influences writing and vice versa. So, I think that this will be a very fruitful discussion on the relationship between market and writing, and how certain changes we have been witnessing for last couple of decades in the publishing industry. So I'd like to offer the first question to Ravindra Singh, one of the top publishers of India. He was associated with Penguin Books India and now is a co-founder of Speaking Tiger. So the first question to you, sir, how has the publishing industry changed over the few decades, and how do you witness or experience this kind of change in recent time?
So I started in publishing in '94. That's when I first joined Penguin India, and then I was there till 2011. And then I left, and briefly I was helped found DUIlF, and then Speaking Tiger, which was in 2014. So it's been about 32 years now, and a lot has changed. Some things haven't changed, which of course I'll come to later, but what has changed is the size of the market has definitely grown. I mean, that is, I think, obvious even to those who are not in the industry. Not only because the number of shops, bookshops has increased, but it is the online space, the online selling of books, dominated, of course, in fact, monopolized by Amazon, but I mean, that's a separate problem that people have to deal with, but it also brings opportunities in the sense that people from many areas where there are no bookshops, they can actually buy books online. The size of the market has grown. At the same time, the number of publishers based in India who are publishing has also grown. The trend among the trends is more non-fiction sales, but that is not a new trend. Almost from the late 90s, early 2000s, at least in India, and even I think globally, that was the trend, and which is also logical because non-fiction is, a variety of categories and genres. You have works of history, you'll have travel, memoirs, autobiographies, self-help, etc., business, whatever. So that it's a large umbrella, and therefore non-fiction naturally will sell more because more books are published in that large umbrella genre. And so it's about 70% to 75% at the moment of any publisher's list that sells and is published is non-fiction, the rest is fiction. How it has changed also is that, there's a lot of noise now about, for some years there's been about e-books, about digital publishing and audiobooks, revolutionizing the market. I think that is overstated. Not a lot of e-books and audiobooks sell at the moment, not only in India but even globally. For instance, in the US, which is considered a mature market, where e-books, it was among the first countries where e-books were available, but initially there was the sale of e-books grew, but it has now stabilized at about 15% or so. 15 to 18% of the total revenue of any publishing company comes from e-books. The rest is the physical book. So these are the positive things in the sense that the size of the market has grown, but what hasn't changed is that it is, at least in the Indian context, if a book sells more than 5,000, we're happy. If it sells 10,000, it's a bestseller. You will hear only of the few books that sell 100,000 plus, and a lot of noise is made about those, but those are very, very small in number. The average sales, in fact, for the what you call mid-list, which is not the big titles, has shrunk. I mean, it's come down a little. It used to be about 1,500, 2,000. It's now about 1,000. That is what is the average sale for a book. So translations, there are more in English, translations into English. More are being published and more are therefore also selling. But even there, the numbers are, the same. In fact, some sell even less than 1,000. What happens sometimes is that it's something positive happens, but in the media, etc., it's blown out of proportion. That the world is changing. That everything is transferred. That hasn't happened. So yeah, translations, there are many more translations, and thanks for pointing that out, because that really is a significant development that has happened, especially in the last, let's say, about 12 to 15 years. And they are getting almost the same attention as a work written and published originally in English. That doesn't necessarily mean that the quality is always great, it isn't, but at least there is, there are translations happening. But what I wanted to say was that, in terms of the independent, smaller publishers, and because I've seen the larger corporation and this, there's a lot that independents can do because they are not, yes, they are mindful of the market, you have to be, but you're not your decisions are not dictated so much entirely by the market. Because your ambitions for some books are relatively smaller. You don't want them to sell 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. It's a book you believe in, so you will, you'll be happy if it sells 1,000, 1,200. So, so you have a larger list of certain kind of books that you want to publish, and across the list you try and make it viable, if not profitable. We, for instance, we've been fortunate that the funders, because most independents, me and many others, we don't have money of our own, so we need funders. We've been lucky that the funders have not interfered in our publishing and have allowed us to, grow gradually. But there will come a time when there will be pressure for profits, and the market right now in India is really very, very, what's the word for it? It is not an easy space for independent publishers. And this is not just the distributors, they're only interested in the big names. And in India, there's also the thing of foreign titles coming in, and those are what they're interested in stocking. So if there's something that's, got a lot of notice in the US or UK, those are the books that they will keep. If, for instance, even literary stars here, I'm not talking about commercial stars like Chetan Bhagat, etc., but literary stars, let's say Arundhati Roy, for instance. Amitav Ghosh, yes, and the others, William Dalrymple. Arundhati's latest book, for instance, it's everywhere. So people think that's a great sign. I think that's really not good for publishing at all, because you have, imagine one shop where you have, these 4 shelves. 50% of those have just this one title. It just doesn't leave any space for other writers, especially the lesser celebrated or known conventionally writers. And that is very bad for publishing. Anything that's bad for diversity is bad for reading, bad for publishing. And therefore, I have a problem even with these big stars who champion freedom of expression, etc. But in the way that they colonize the market, and they are complicit in it, they are part of it too. I think I'm rambling, but the point is that hasn't really changed from how it used to be. In fact, it's got worse. Monopolizing of the market that happens by big corporations, by big authors, by big publishers, that's got worse. Amazon is the big corporation that I'm saying, but the problem is, what is the other avenue? Because the traditional distributors and bookshops here, they are even more unfriendly towards the lesser known names. At least on Amazon, it doesn't really care. You just put it there and Sorry, it was longer than I intended it to.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening answer. Now I'll go to Sir Bakar, sir. I mean, you have seen Egyptian markets and publishing strategies for many years. So what are the interesting developments that are going on there? I mean, and how you can differentiate with what Ravi Singh sir pointed out. I mean.
Well, first of all, I thank you for the kind invitation, and I'm so happy here. Namastak, if I'm pronouncing correctly, and I'm very intrigued by what you said, because more or less, though we have different issues, but it's more or less the same. I think we share a lot of similarities, and also we have our differences. For instance, India, I think it's the biggest country in the world in terms of population, but you have different languages. I represent only not Egypt, I represent the Arab world, because we publish in Arabic, so you can sell the same book in all the Arab world to speak the same language, at least the written one, apart from the dialects. So we have like 450 million people speaking Arabic, apart from the diaspora and everything. So it's quite a big market, supposedly, compared to Europe. But we face the same problem. I mean, the education, the distribution, the piracy, the availability, the knowledge, all these problems. I think more or less to get 1,000 copies sold in a 400 million 50 doesn't make sense for a European. But for us, I can relate to what you said exactly. And also I relate to the way you make your own program. So you do books that you know that they're not going to sell well. If they sell 500 copies, you're so happy, you're satisfied that at least people read this. We might have a little bit of differences also with, we don't publish in English, we publish in Arabic. Here English is there. We have Amazon, but it's not working. I mean, the logistics of the market is so difficult even for Amazon to break. So they are still not prevailing like other countries, so it's good so far or bad, I'm not sure. But it has the same monopoly way of doing business if they do, and they try to squeeze you as much as possible for more discounts, so they would make more if you want your book visible. If you want an officer who handles your stuff, you will get pay a little bit more. So they just want to make more money. The way I see it for independent bookstores, as you were talking, we have few in Egypt, but they have their character. But what I see in Europe, as opposing to what you're saying, is that an independent bookshop would be specialized. So for instance, this one does only translated fiction. This one only crime novels. This one only, he has the best crime novels from all over, translation, Indian stuff. So if you have a specialized bookstore and you announce this, you get all the fans, you get recommendations, you have your own opinion, you have your own social media channels, so people would listen to you, look to you. So you'll be the master of this game, more or less, for the reader. That's how it works. I don't know also how it works here, but for Egypt now, we had booktubers that were very good. Now, what we call influencers are more. So we have these little girls who I think they never read the book, but they come and talk about it. It's so nice, it's so good, it's so, without even mentioning much, or they just know what's at the back of the book, but it helps in selling very much. We just finished, just before I come, we finished the Cairo Book Fair, and I want to tell you, even by Indian standards, it's the biggest in the world. We had 6.2 million visitors in 13 days. So per capita and per everything, it's one of the biggest. It's huge in size and huge in the number of people coming, yet they don't have the money to buy. So it's always the challenge. I think we share this. I mean, education is there, people are learning. One more thing, because I don't want to also talk a lot, what's picking up in Egypt or the Arab world is e-books. Not audio. Audio is coming up slowly, but e-books is coming very good. I think one of the main reasons we have a very good application that's easy to use, very user-friendly. They have now good marketing team, but also because of the rise of the price of the book. So for the price of 1 or 2 books subscription per month, you get access to thousands of books. And they get the latest, which is another fight between publishers and them, because if I sell a book for, I think, whatever, 200 Egyptian pounds, if you read it on an application, I get like 20. If I get, because also I get per what you read, not, I mean, if you buy a book, I get the money. You read it or not, I have my money and I'm happy. But if you read 2 pages and you don't like it, I got my money. But in ebooks, I get only 2 pages paid. If you only read 2 pages, I get whatever you read out of the book. So even if you don't continue to the end, I don't get it. It's a bit complicated. There's another fight between publishers and ebook companies. I don't want to also, but I'm open for questions, of course. Also to compare notes, I think it's very useful when 2 countries are on the same level, but different circumstances, that we exchange and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll again come to you. I'll go to Abdullah, sir. I mean, you have produced some very popular novels. Even your novels have been translated into different languages. Including Arabic. So what do you think, sir, while you write a book? Do you think of market in the process of writing and crafting the book?
Actually, no writers thinks about the market before we conceive a story or think of a story. So urge to tell a story which is lying inside you or staying inside you is the foremost things we think about. But of course, market sometimes dictates what the other people try to write. Some writers really do that, keeping the market in the mind. And when I was writing, there were suggestions from some of my friends, writer friends, or to be writer friends, and some senior authors. Market will not accept a story set in a rural Bihar, especially in English. Why you are not trying to write in Urdu or Hindi? And funny thing is that the Hindi edition has sold less than English and other languages. So sometimes we have idea about the market, but market is not like that. Nobody can understand the market, what exactly the people want. Because, for example, campus novel or chick lit, they feel that everyone will become Chetan Bhagat or Durjay Datta. But no, I know many of my friends are writing similar novels, even better than Chetan Bhagat, but there is no takers. So a writer should not think about the market. Whatever he feels like, he should write. So, but market always is a factor, and sometimes market also decides what is being sold. For example, my agent was trying to sell my book to a big US publisher, and editor was so excited, almost every day he was writing an email to my agent. And he has given almost 99.9% deal is done. It is a big US publisher. I was so happy because my agent used to forward each mail to me. She is very kind. So what happened when it goes to the committee? The sales people vetoed it. They told that we can't sell two Indian novels at the same time. Abraham Burgess' new book was coming, so we can't sell two books. So they gave one we will take, and obviously Abraham is a big name, so his was taken. So, and this guy even started using the abusive word against the salespeople. He was so aggressive. My agent told me all the stories. He started shouting in the meeting, why cannot we publish the two books? But finally the salespeople had the final say, and their argument was that he is based in India, so marketing will be difficult. We cannot have the city to us, everything, all kind of excuses. So at times, even the editor loves your book, marketing and sales team says no, and it's gone. So this is how the market impacts your publishing prospects.
Okay. Another question. I mean, what is your view about the growing expectations that authors themselves should, market?
Actually, it has become the order of the day. Authors are expected to promote their books. To some extent, it's fine, but sometimes it goes overboard. Some of my writer friends do this, and they become the butt of joke behind the backs. So I like to do it, but to a moderation. So I will never send a WhatsApp message to anyone to buy my book, or write a social media post that you must buy my book, or made my relatives or friends or the co-authors or fellow authors guilty about not getting my book. I never do that, but I put the general information that this book is coming on such and such date, and this is the update. I just put on the social media updates, and that's it. If someone is interested, he will buy it. If not, then I can't force. That is it.
Yes, sir. Please.
If I may add, because we had this incident in the last Cairo Book Fair, we had authors in the hallways of the book fair selling their books, pushing their books on people. Oh, look at this, I will tell you about this book and you have to buy it. And that was frowned upon a lot from the news, and people like, I had to buy the book because I was embarrassed, or they forced it to them. But to be honest, I always say it's like having a child. It's the publisher and the author are the parents, so it's not that you give me the child and I have to do everything, and it's your child, you have to do it. It's a mix. As he said, some authors, they don't have any visibility on social media, they don't post about their books, they don't promote it. Some are very aggressive in this. I think the middle is always good. Author has to be there. The reason of success in the United States, and that's also about his book, What Happened, it's treated as a commodity. detergents, like toothpaste, like everything, they have to find the right spot. So they need one Indian book in their list, one Arabic book on their list, and they fight for it. So, and they try to promote it in this way, and you have to do this and I'll do that, you will be available in this time, you will sign these copies, stuff like that. Maybe the American way is a bit too harsh sometimes, it works, but it's too harsh. There's always something in the middle that we have to find between publisher and author. There'll be a collaboration. Book clubs work very well, and it needs presence of the author, also the author's character. Some authors write very well, but when you listen to them, you just don't want to read them again, and vice versa. So you have to always, as a publisher, I think he should lead this and find the right balance.
Again, sir, how does the Egyptian market respond to translated literature, translated works? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we started, we're a 50-year-old publishing house, but we started translation aggressively, if I might say, 15 years ago, because we found a gap in the Arab world. As I told you, we always talk about the bigger picture, because Lebanese books are sold in Egypt, Jordanian books are sold in Egypt, so we have to find, and we sell there, so we have to find the right balance. So the gap was that in the Arabic market, there were always translations of bestsellers, American bestsellers, of Nobel Prize laureate, of just awards, just very famous authors or works. Nothing other than that. So I found there are hidden gems all over the world that we need to highlight or express or show. So we started this journey. Now we have 80 countries in our list from 19 languages and over 650 titles. So we discovered authors from Colombia other than Marquez. We discovered from Guatemala, from Nepal. We try to find, I mean, as you said, it's not always a success. You're not sure. Some books are very good and they receive nothing, and some books you're just surprised how people like it and read it, and it's like, there's a million reasons that you can say why a book is successful, and there are the same if you want to prove why it's failed. But you have to show, you have to express. And actually, 15 years later, we created a whole wave in the market now. A lot of publishers who never translated started translation. There were so many hurdles and problems they are trying to overcome now, and there is a big wave of translation now in the Arab market. And I would say happily that we are one of the reasons that we helped in this. We showed it's doable, and it can be profitable as well if you build the right list.
Thank you, sir. Again, I'll go to Obisha. I mean, we are from Northeast, and you have experienced so many, rise and fall of, literary canons and all in the pan-Indian context. But why, sir, regional voices, especially from the Northeast, remain underrepresented in mainstream publishing, context in India? I mean, what is your view, sir?
Well, actually, my view is a little contrary to that, because of late, let's say about 5 or 6 years, maybe a little longer, a fair number of writers from the Northeast have been published. And I don't mean this in any, what's it called? I don't mean this to be disrespectful in any way, but you know what happens sometimes is that even translations, for instance, earlier there were translations being published from the 90s onwards. As I said, when I joined in 94, there were writers from Hindi and Urdu, from Tamil, who were translated. The numbers were of course small, but that number grew. But translations have become fashionable over the last 10 years or so, at least in India. That's because it's the politics of it is all right, it sounds right on both sides, whether you're on the left or the right. You are you are finding authentic, as you said, regional voices, and that is truer, that is more Indian, and all of that rubbish. So those are published, and that's become fashionable. And what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years is So Dalit writing, you have to have it whether you believe in those realities or whether you understand it, doesn't matter. As a publisher, you do that. Dalit, feminist, queer, and now the Northeast has been added. So, for instance, one large publisher set up an imprint which I found very amusing, specifically for books from the Northeast. I'm not from the Northeast, but I have many friends and authors from here. I've been coming here for long enough to know that even this term Northeast can be, it can be reductive, it can be problematic. It's like boxing in a variety of experiences and lived realities into this one label. But that apart, so there have actually been, you must have noticed, not just translations, but also a lot of people here, and they're very fine writers, who write originally in English, who have been published also. So I don't think that is the problem. I think the problem is this whole glamorization of everything which happens, and a lot of what you would think, like for instance, when we were sitting here, you gave me 3 names, I had not even heard of them, except Anamika Bora. I just heard, but I didn't know very much. The other 2 names, I did not even know. And you telling me that they are among the most powerful and exciting voices from Assamese. So that is the problem. It isn't the number of titles from here that are being published by mainstream publishers. It is the kind, it is what attention is being given to them, how much that publisher is invested in, good writing and good literature. So I think you just need to move away from these things. There aren't enough Tamil, there aren't enough Northeast, there aren't enough. For instance, if you were to look at that from Santali, how many of them are published, right? I don't think they are underrepresented. I think maybe they're misrepresented.
Is there some strategy
For young writers from these regions? I think, well, I think just as you would write anywhere, any good writer or aspiring writer, you do the same thing anywhere. You do the same thing. You just work at your craft. You have a strong, good story to tell, and I don't just mean fiction. That's one thing that you can do, is put that out of your head, that fiction is somehow more superior, and that's what you should be doing. Non-fiction, really good non-fiction, sometimes is, can be a more rewarding book to a reader than just fiction. Work on your craft, have a strong story to tell. And as Abdullah was saying, if you're really a writer, yes, of course it does matter to you, and you do want to be read, and you want to be published, and you want your books to sell, but that is not where it begins. It can't, because if you really are wanting to write something, then all the marketing and sales, etc., comes later. So just be true to yourself. Just work hard, be sincere, and discipline is very important. And the rest of it, after the book is done, well, then go to publishers, and don't get, don't be discouraged if you don't find a publisher for a year or 2 years or 3 years. Fortunately, there are now many more avenues than there ever were. If you move away from the accepted wisdom of, you have to be published by a big brand or a big publisher, remember that the main idea is for your work to be read, for it to be out there, and there are different channels. You can do it online. There is digital publishing. And what has now become possible, and which really I think will be good, you might agree, for publishers, for the whole culture of books, is direct to reader. There are some channels and avenues opening, So you're saying friends and family. It isn't a bad thing. Friends and family, then spread the word. And then those people buy. They can buy those books online, not necessarily from Amazon. They can buy it directly from the websites of the publishers. There can be little book fairs in different regions, which is beginning to happen. So there are avenues, don't be discouraged. But in terms of any special thing that you can do just because you're from this region, no. I mean, you do what any dedicated, serious writer would do, work on your writing and your craft.
I know many publishers from Assam. They've been saying that after COVID, post-COVID, they are going through a crisis, in terms of market. and then they are reluctant to publish new books. Many of local publishers.
Then they should just get out of the business of publishing. I mean, if you're reluctant to publish, why are you a publisher?
Economic issues.
No, so as as Sheriff also said, that you see, not everything has to be hugely profitable. If you redefine your idea of profit, a little more than break even for let's say 50 books, rather than one book that will sell 50,000, it liberates you, it allows you to do more things, and you just remember that you need to, yes, survive and make some profit over a period of time. So publishers who say, yes, of course, things are very, very difficult, and sometimes you have to shut shop. But I think that is not the case as often as it is made out to be. It will just depend on how much, as I said, independents, me, many others, we don't have money. We are not rich people. We can put in a little bit of money of our own, and then that's our ambition, and that's the size of our operation, and we should try and make that profitable. But if you find a funder who's willing to put in some money, then just work hard, find that funder, and give them a plan that, over a period of time, it can become profitable, and also convince them that, this is not chocolate, this is not, books have their own economics. And it's not, if you understand that economics, and if you understand that it takes a long time, but it is more enduring. Once you break even, once you have a large enough backlist, as Sheriff will also tell you, then your business is more stable than many other businesses, because you have this backlist which will keep you going, may not give you huge profits, but would be viable for a much longer period. I don't know if what you feel about that.
So, your take.
I would agree to what you say exactly, and I would just add a little bit more also of what tricks and tips we do. Now with digital publishing, you can publish 10 copies. You don't have, in the past we used to publish 1,000 copies of each book and keep them and wait. There are some stars and there are a few poor dogs, so you really lose a lot. With the price of paper and printing now, it makes it more viable to print on demand, so you can print 100 copies only before the book fair, like for instance what we did. That gives us also a space to use the money to produce more books. So we have 130 titles produced this year, and during the book fair we had to reprint 4 or 5 titles once and twice, like 100 copies and another 100 and another 100 during the 13 days. So you don't risk with the whole thing, because if you tell me what will work, if I know what makes a bestseller, I'll be the only publisher in the Arab world. And I think that's the story around the world. That's why there are publishers. We all know what we're doing. I would say more or less after 30 years, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm producing a good book. I know I did a good selection. But why does this book work? Nobody knows. I would really recommend for students here, if you read, there's a nice American book by a Korean American called Yellow Face. It's very interesting because it talks about the kitchen of publishing in New York, in America, and how they make a bestseller, and how they choose a title, and they decide that this will be a bestseller. I mean, it doesn't always work as well, but how the manufacturing of this industry from behind, so they know 1 year earlier, that this book will be a bestseller, we will make this book a bestseller, we will put it everywhere, we will do this campaign, the American style of pushing things on people, that it becomes a phenomenon. And it's very interesting for me even to see how it's done. I mean, I'm not really inspired, but it's interesting to see. So digital publishing can help also pushing, having the right balance, as you said. So some books, they just need to keep low, and it's working. And also the backlist. I mean, publishers survive by backlist, and each publishers have to find their own calculations. Some are very eager, they start very hard, they spend a lot of money, and then suddenly they don't have a cash back or a money flow of money, so they just close, or they can't survive, or they have a huge problem. You have to find your balance, and you have to grow slowly, but surely. That's what we do. And also managing the expectations of authors is always a problem. That's why we do translations, because we don't deal with authors directly. We only have like 4 or 5 Egyptian publishers in fiction, because authors are really, really a big problem. I mean, not problem, but for publishers, they're a problem. You have to deal with the ego of each author, and they are, I mean, they have to have the ego and they have to have this, but you have to explain, and you have to deal with it in the right way and everything. So it's not easy to do all this, but my vision and what I do with the few authors I do, it's a co-working. If you have a good editor working with you, he will tell you, just this part doesn't make sense. This part you need to reinforce more, you need to make it in depth more. This sentence will, for instance, for us, if you have this sentence, the book will be banned in the Gulf area. So could we remove this sentence, or is it that important for you? If there is this kind of cooperation, I mean, that doesn't mean it's a bestseller, that doesn't mean it will sell, but you will reach the best formula for this book. Some authors, no, it's like the holy book. You don't touch any word of it, nobody is to cut or do or anything. Some authors are also very flexible, like, you do what you want. No, it's also your work, I can just give suggestions, and there's something always in the middle.
This is for both of you. I mean, is there any specific genre that, you know, the publishers are more into? For example, some publishers are very reluctant for, you know, poetry. You know, some publishers are, you know, more for non-fiction. I mean, you know, is there any relationship between genre and publishing?
Of course. I mean, every now and then there is a trend that happens, like comic books, like horror, crime. Now fantasy and romantasy are very popular around the world, and everybody starts to write and translate from this till it's like full, and then you move on. Now non-fiction also is working very well, but that's normal. But yeah, in general, there are, in the Arab world at least, the worst is plays, then poetry, then short stories. Those don't sell. Very few, I mean, successes, but those, if you have something like this, you have to have a lot of money to give to a publisher to convince to publish such a book, because it doesn't have any returns. Poetry, nobody, I mean, almost street poetry. They were a country, a whole culture based on poetry. I mean, we have a very strong tradition of poetry, but now it doesn't sell at all. Maybe it will be a trend in 2 or 3 years, it will come, I don't know. But for now, these are really, nobody publishes plays at all. Like you would find on the whole book fair, which is around 1,000 publishers, you would find like, I don't know, 50 books of poetry, but the rest doesn't work. So these genres really, if you write crime now, I mean, it's being popular now in the Arab world. Even if it's bad, you would have a more chance, of course, in being published than a poetry or a theater or something.
Pretty much the same, and that I think is the same everywhere. Short stories, I have never understood why. No, actually, I am beginning to understand why. Because attention spans are lower, you would expect that, you know, people would prefer to read shorter works. But I think when it is tied to this business of having to pay for a book, which is always a huge problem for readers. You see, they'll all champion books, but they don't want to spend money to buy books.
Exactly, and they say if it's so good, it's so sure to be good.
Yes.
I need something. It's like having, you know, tasting something, and you like it, but it's not enough. You're not satisfied. You need a bigger one.
So that's what I think, which I'm sure is also, you know, the same in Arabic publishing, and you've experienced. So, and it is not just a glib thing to say, but if there is a link, there are linked stories, you know, that are set in the same place, same set of characters or something, then you can market it as a single work. So it isn't as if, you know, you're getting one small good thing and then the next story is not so good. So there are ways of getting around that. In terms of poetry, we do actually publish poetry, and I think there was a time when I used to think that there will come a time when we'll have to start paying the price for making this choice, that we will keep publishing at least 2 or 3 books of poetry every year. But fortunately, that hasn't happened, and there are 2 reasons, I think, why that hasn't happened. One is because we have, in a lot of cases, managed, at least not a lot, let's say 50% of the cases, we have been able to find individuals or organizations or trusts who we can talk to and say, look, it's important to have a poetry list, and these books, poetry books we believe in, will you support? And they give. They're small grants, but they help. At least they take care of the printing costs. Sometimes even the individual authors, if they can afford it, help. That's one reason. And the other reason is, as I was saying, have realistic expectations. There are some books of poetry which have actually broken even, and some have, sold a little more than what would be required to break even. So we do that, and independent publishers can actually do that. Smaller publishers can do that. We have a poet among us here, Tashi, and it's a brilliant book of poetry, also brilliantly produced, and published by a very small. Raman's done it, right? Very small publisher who's actually primarily a bookseller. So you need someone to just believe in it and work together with the author's friends, some people who will support poetry together and make it a little viable. So that's the way to keep it going. Drama is, drama, that is really difficult. Although if you ask me, I don't know why it should exist as a book also, but sometimes, people want that. But just very quickly, I wanted before, and we can ask Abdullah for his personal experience with that book. So sometimes what happens is you would think that this subject is not going to work. Now, I'm not talking about the genre. So when you say it's small town, and I think Patna Blues is a remarkable book. Now I've read it, I've started reading it. And what makes it so good, apart from the writing and the sensibility, is also the story it tells. It is set in a small town, therefore it is very distinctive. It's very different from a lot of the, books, stories that are fiction that is being published. And you would think that, especially in the present climate in India, an interfaith love story, where you have, a Hindu-Muslim love thing, would not work, but that's actually also one of the reasons why it does work. And not that 50,000 people are going to buy it, but 3,000, 4,000, 2,000 people will really want to read it for that. It's really because it's unusual, it's very well told. So there again, conventional wisdom is upended. That does happen sometimes. What do you feel about that, about your book?
So, thank you, Ravi. So when I started writing Patna Blues, so I have an idea about my hometown and the places where I lived. And the story comes from the real life experiences. One guy who used to live in my neighborhood, and he committed suicide because he was not able to get into IS. So kind of obsession we have about the IS exam. So basic idea of the story comes from that. And this character, Arif, which has similar background because I grew up in the police colony, so I was familiar with how that cultural thing works and how the daily routine of a character is. So I was familiar. So deliberately I set the story in the place where I used to live. So then come, what are the conflicts in the life of this character? If character is preparing for the IS exam, he might be dealing with so many things. There are different dimensions of our existence. So where that comes the love story about Sumitra, and that also comes from some kind of real life experience. I met a very old lady, and she was from a very conservative family. But one of her son was quite open-minded, so he asked me, my mother wants to eat mutton from your family. So I was surprised because in Bihar generally non-veg is very common. 96% people are non-veg eating. Even during the Navratra, we have tradition of offering meat to the Devi on the 10th day. So kind of culture is there. But generally when people grow old, they stop eating non-veg. So she was 80 years old, so I just surprised. And she wanted to have that mutton from a Muslim family for a special flavor or taste. So my grandma was alive that time, she cooked and I took it to her. Then I asked, ki many of your family are very conservative. Why do you have a kind of, if someone is conservative in a family, older people are supposed to be more conservative. But it was other way. So she told me when she was a kid, her father was transferred to a place where majority of populations were Muslims, and there were Basti, Dalit Basti, and Marwaris. Marwari refused to rent the house, and her mother had issues living in the Dalit Basti. That was not possible. So his father decided he was kind of a bit more liberated for his time. So he told one gentleman, Muslim family, I know, we can live there. So she lived there for some time, and she wanted to wear the burqa because all the girls in the house used to go, and she learned a bit of Urdu, kalma, everything. So she has some soft corners for the Muslims. So she told me that is why I wanted to read Urdu. She could not complete her formal education in that time, 1930s was very difficult. But she wanted to read Urdu. So from there came the character of Sumitra, who is coming from a Maithil Brahmin background, but she is fond of Urdu, which has been now stigmatized as a Muslim language. It was not so. Caste community was more into the Urdu language. Even in 19th century, they used to say this is language of caste. So that is how it come from, and it was organic. And the kind of tension between that, because the women is married and they don't want to cross the boundary. There is a restriction, but they don't. That is what fascinated me, and many of my friends said the sexual tension is too much. They should become intimate. You put a lot of a few scenes. So, but I was reluctant. I grew up in Patna and my native village. At that time, the concept of love for us was looking at the girls from the distance. Even touching was also not considered good. Even our moral values were some like that. If you have a dream about the girl, something objectionable, you regret in the morning. No, truly. You go to the mosque and offer the prayer, oh, I committed a sin. It was a dream, and my friend used to make mockery of you. You can't do anything even during the dream. So the kind of characters has created, it was realistic. There are so many people like me or us. This is how they come. And reaction from the people were different. I told you, some senior authors told me it should be written in Hindi or Urdu. Some was telling me, no, it will not work because it is set in the small village. Who wants to read about a small village or a small town, about a small Bihari village in English, especially nobody will. So then I was selected for a workshop. I have almost written the first draft of that novel, and it was by University of East India. It was first batch. And when I landed there, all of them, all the participants from India, Scotland, UK and US, they have the fancy degrees. So I was the one who is coming from the small town, Hindi medium, Urdu medium, with a degree in chemistry. I did masters in organic chemistry, no literary background. And many of them had Oxford kind of degree, IITians. One lady was from a retired FBI officer from US. One girl was writing columns for Guardians. So I was feeling nervous. So Romesh Gunasekara was there, and I shared my concerns. So he told me, he's a very funny guy. So Abdullah, if you don't trust your talent, at least you should believe that we have ability to identify the talents. So we had more than 300 applications from all over the world, and we selected just 22. So I guarantee you, you will be one of the first workshop attendees to be published. And he was right. That his words gave me a lot of confidence, and I was worried about my accent, worried about my English, worried about my stories. So, but I stick with the idea. I did not change much. Then luckily Chiki liked it and gave it to Renu Agal, who unfortunately is not with us now, and she loved it, and she was a kind of champion. So finally it was published, and as of now it is available in 12 languages, and some for especially Punjabi. I got lot of call from the Punjabi readers. I don't know how did they get my number, But they used to call me personally, and they used to give me, you should write the second part, but you should not write this, that. They used to give the instruction. One senior guy, a journalist, Sardarji, called me. Khan Sahab, I got your number from sources, don't mind. I am a... So he gave me all the instructions for the second part. I just gently listened. And as you are talking about the regional language or Indian language publishing, so it is not fault on the part of readers only. Publishers in the regional languages, or they need to innovate. They used to. I can give you the example. My Telugu publisher, who just started a new publishing house in the Hyderabad. That time, Telugu fiction was mostly dominated by the pulp fiction or religious, mythological books. But he took the different way. He decided to publish the original novels and non-fictions. And then he also decided to translate some of the books. So I also got an offer for this book. And this guy has given top 5 bestseller list during last 5-6 years. At least 6 to 7 of his books was in top 5 on Amazon, fighting with the Chetan Bhagat. I know one Telugu guy, he has sold 35,000 copy of his novel. So he did really well, and he is focusing on the Telugu speaking people outside India also. He is sending a special package to US. You pay 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, a boxed item. So he is doing wonderfully. For a Telugu publishing, my Punjabi publisher, he printed 3 times my book. And he told me he has the readers in Canada and US. And many of the youngsters are not able to read the Gurmukhi. So he has produced the audiobooks. And there is a platform. They will buy it, and while driving they will listen to it. Because they don't want to disconnect it with their culture. So Punjabi books they are selling. Same for no Karnataka publishers. I should not name someone, but Kannada publisher. He 4 reprints of my book. So he is able to sell. So I think others also can follow that. Na? It is possible. But some of the publishers will try to get money from the writer. That is most unethical thing. Once nothing is at stake, you will not give your 100%. That is the problem. So we can think from that angle. Then Indian language book will also be sold in the same way that English is being. And you are talking about the sales and marketing. I totally agree with that, Ravi. In the bookstores, they give the space to those bigger writers. For him, anyway, people will come and ask. But my book, writers like mine are stuck in the corner. Nobody will find out. So that kind of approach and push from the publisher is also required. Some new writers should be displayed properly. And reorder, they will not reorder.
No, they won't reorder. And the easiest thing that they tell you, if you go to a bookshop and you say, where's my book, I can't find it, they say, oh, the publisher hasn't sent. Actually, they haven't placed an order. They have to reorder. So what you're saying about shelf space is not, the publishers can't do anything. Of course, they are complicit in it sometimes, but at the end of the day, it is that bookshop which has decided that they will give 30 to 40% of their entire shelf space to, and I've seen this, to just 2 books. One, a good book, I won't, talk much about that. It got some space which I was happy about. The other is also a good book, but Arundhati Roy does not need half your shop to stock one single title of book, and that is the problem. So I'm not saying that they need to highlight every book, but at least give it space, for God's sake. I mean, you have 10 copies of that book. People will come buy it, you replace it with another 10. They will come and want Mother Mary or whatever it's called, they will buy it. But these others are not even visible. And so then these same bookshops complain about Amazon. There are many problems with Amazon, but at least the book is there. Yes, it's a virtual world, so it's easier for them to keep it there. But if you're going to complain about these bookshops, then they have to also start, selling a variety of books. And it's the laziest, and actually damaging for publishing and writing is that if you, again, what are you doing? You're promoting the same star system. You're talking about the problem with Amazon is that it's, this big beast and it's monopolizing. Well, you're doing the same. You're helping the big stars monopolize shelf space.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll take, quickly take some questions from the audience because we are running short of time. Because students are sitting here, writers, authors. Please, questions if you have.
Good morning, sir. I am Darshana Kashyap from 4th semester at Department of English. My question is especially for Ravinder sir and Sharif sir. Sir, what is the Ravi sir and Sharif sir? So, what is the impact of audiobook platforms like Audible on the publishing industry?
Well, for me, I'm a very hardcore listener of audiobooks because we have a lot of commuting in Cairo, you can imagine. And for me, audiobooks was a savior. In the beginning, it was only English that I can find, and now we have Arabic platforms, so I wait for my friends, authors, to see like, do you have it audio? I will listen to it easier. But that's me. The market is not there yet. I think the biggest problem, I was talking because, you're connected at the end with the market leaders and those companies. The problem is that they focus their marketing on people who already read books. They want them to listen to books. Reading books physical, you can switch to e-books, doable for some reasons, though it might not be easy in the beginning, and then you discover, well, it has its privileges as well. But to listen to book, it's something else, because the attention span, people get lost. They think of other things, and then they go back to the book and they discover they can't concentrate. It needs a special skill. We did a study when I was a general secretary of the Egyptian Publishers Association. We did a focus group with students from university who are non-readers, because my idea was the best thing is to expand the cake, not just to eat one piece. Let's make it bigger so we fight even, it's worth it even for the fight. So we wanted to get non-readers to read books. We discovered that there is no way to read books. They are traumatized from the educational system in Egypt, that the word book is just terrible for them. We had to change into a novel or a story or whatever, because the word book itself, it's just too much for them. But the only way they said they can read a book is to listen to a book. That sounded interesting, that they put the earphone and start to listen. So I think there is a market if you do the right marketing, which is a company now in Egypt. It's changing a little bit by choosing crime novels to the genre of crime novels, simple ones for these readers. So now they are more appealing and it's picking up. But a country like Sweden, the market is 50% physical books, 50% audiobooks. So, and people are so fascinated that they even put it as white noise. So if you're working, you have someone talking to your ears, even if you're not really listening. They are also taking it to the extreme. So there is a market, but with the right marketing, I think you can reach. I don't know about your experience.
Here it's very, very small. And also, we're all limited by our own experience. So I, for instance, have tried it, but it doesn't work for me because it's shorter works, like a short story, it works nicely, but a novel, you can't listen to the whole thing, in one run or walk or sitting, whatever you do, or one drive. And then when you come back to it, it's not the same like having read something and dog-eared that page and gone back and then go back to it. So it hasn't taken off to the extent that it probably will after some time in India yet. The other thing to consider is the costs. It's not easy because you have to hire a studio, get a studio. You will still. Okay, great. So we will.
AI now will make it.
Yeah, AI will, exactly.
You can even have an actor reading for it.
So that's what I'm saying. So till now, you read someone who's, reads well, and if it is a well-known, like Konkona Sen read some book for Seagull Books and that did very well, but Konkona Sen is a friend of his, she'll do it for free for him, but you have to pay a lot of money otherwise. But as he's saying, AI will change all of that. So it may be possible. Things will change. I don't know, you people are young. Would you prefer audiobooks? If you do, great. For us, it doesn't really matter what form the book reaches you in. It is still literature, it's still a book, and you will pay for it, and we will make money, the author will make money. If it is not printed paper, personally, I think that's a tragedy, but the book will survive.
So my personal experience with the audiobooks, my book was published in audio form in 4 languages, English, Hindi, Kannada and Telugu. In one language, my income from the audiobook was more than the royalty. So that was, and in Hindi, especially read by a famous Dastan Go, Daryan Shahidi. So it was well read and well received. So sometimes it works, but I think still a long way to go.
I had something to share, as in the independent bookshop. So earlier, whenever I would probably go to Delhi and I would go to Fact and Fiction, so meet the person, you ask for a book, he'll tell you on which shelf, where is it. And when you go to a bookstore like Crossword and all, they will have no idea about the book, where it is. So that there's a big change there. So I just wanted to ask Sheriff, is it the same in Egypt, where the independent booksellers are are closing down, or are they still there?
You mean the bookshops or the... Well, we don't have a chain of bookshops. We have a very strange phenomenon of bookshops turning into publishers. That's, we had 3, 4, like the renowned bookshops. I would see that they find like, well, I can sell and I'm having this potential of selling. Why don't I do the book then? I get a bigger cut of the cake. And then they start to suffer because, okay, they can sell in their own bookstores, but to distribute is another problem, and to have the right, so they get distracted a little bit. So you find both, they are shaking. The bookshop is not really as before, and it loses its independency. You go into the bookshops, you find all their books first. They push their books to everybody because they have this power. But also, on a different note, from more what you're saying, I totally understand also the bookstore's point of view. Well, it's really hard to run a bookstore. The margin is not enough. They have a lot of cost. People don't read as much and blah, blah. So when they find 1 or 2 titles that are really working, they really need to push to the limit to get the most out of it. And it's easier to sell 10 copies of this per day than to put books that you might sell only 1 copy of 10 other copies. So it's kind of, maybe we need as publishers to work on our marketing more, so we reach harder, but there is a ceiling. But even if you put like your book on the window for 10 days, that doesn't generate sales.
See, that's the same logic as then you apply to publisher that, if, let's take a name, Chetan Bhagat sells, we will only publish Chetan Bhagat. It's a choice you've made. Then my problem is with the bookshop is that to keep 20 copies of that book, do you have to keep 100 on display? That's what I mean. You order those copies with 10, replace them immediately. But the other thing, the thing is, if it isn't visible, if a book is not visible, how is it going to sell? And how are you going to have a viable business? I don't know, maybe bookshops do it, but how can you do it? The same book, how long will you sell the same book and make money? You have to have a variety. You need to, so I'm not saying I can understand of course, we would all make a lot of money doing certain things. But then are we invested in the whole environment of books and publishing?
Good morning to all resource persons. Mine is not a question. It is like today is International Mother Tongue Day. International Mother Tongue Day. So today is incidentally. So what publishers can do to popularize this mother tongues so that this mother tongues, the small local languages also survive? Do the marketing companies take certain steps to popularize this? For example, India is a country, so there are so many languages, so many dialects, but most of them are dying. Writers are there, but no takers. The young students, the young people, they are not reading in their mother tongue, but these languages are also to be made revived. So how can we proceed for that? Do you have some ideas?
I don't think this applies. You mean Mother Tongue Day. This doesn't apply for us because we all speak Arabic in the Arab world. So it's one language, many countries. It's, I think, the other way around here in India. So for us, it's not applicable.
I think there just have to be more publishers in different languages. But for this, it can only be the governments which can make it happen, because you will never have enough people buying books in smaller languages, especially because there are only so many people. And also, you won't have people as publishers who will put in money to produce books, because it will mean a loss for every book that they do. So there it is only governments, and unfortunately that comes with a lot of other problems. You know, they will promote the writers they want, and then it comes with ideology, it comes with a lot. No easy answers, but I think eventually it's only the state which can encourage this. Like Sahitya Academy does it, badly I think, but at least it does it. Assamese is dying? Really? That's astonishing.
I'll tell you from a perspective of an outer perspective, which I'm not involved, but I've seen in Europe, and for instance, Finnish language is dying and stuff like that. I think what you can do right now is book clubs, local book clubs, and then if you're talking about your own language, then you can probably get the author, and you start to build, you help the publisher and the bookshop. So you work with an independent bookshop who brings you local author with a local title, so you have the publisher, the author, the language, and you get to read and discuss, so you have more people coming. This is the private initiatives of people can really help the whole industry, not just the government, because if we rely on the government, we know how it ends.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, with due respect, I mean, I'm also from Assam. I don't think that, you know, SMS is dying. I mean, it is because of the, you know, the emergence of the English medium schools. I mean, basically one of the reasons. I mean,
they don't want to buy. So I was talking to one of the Urdu publisher. He was telling me there are so many people championing the Urdu. It is a great language. They are fond of it. But when it comes to buying, they will not buy it. Even you don't read, you must buy to sustain the publishing. Once market develops, then more people will start picking up. And teach your children to read in your language. You have to inculcate that habit. We don't have books in our house, and we think our children will grow to be a avid reader. If they see their parents wasting all their times on mobile, they will do the same.
actually, Ravi sir is leaving. He has a flight. So thank you very much, all the esteemed, you know, authors and publishers, my colleagues, and dear students and audience. I thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity. It's a wonderful session, and we see you, you know, maybe in the next Lit Fest. Again, we'll meet and we'll discuss certain things. And as of now, thank you very much once again. I mean, thank you.
As we conclude the session, I extend a heartfelt thank you to our panelists for their engaging insights. I also thank the distinguished dignitaries of the dais for gracing us with their presence. A sincere thank you to the rapporteurs, the volunteer, technical crew, hall coordinators, our sponsors, Bank, LTI Korea, Port of Chennai, Ink and Quill, and our audience for making this session a success. With that, I, Jyotirani Das, sign off as your host. Have a